Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan, and glad to be back with you, continuing our weekly 3-hour conversation about the great outdoors here in the great state of Michigan, the history and tradition of hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping and conservation issues and wildlife issues and wild game cooking and all things right, all things positive, all things biologically sound and biologically necessary here in the outdoor world, right here in our own great state of Michigan. And as I am in the studio right now, it is an absolutely beautiful day out. I know I always get myself into trouble. In fact, last week, I posted a picture online of what the first morels of the season. And this was in Oakland County, and it was, early in the month. And I posted this picture, and I had a segment last week on the radio show about, hey, it's time to start looking for morels in the southern part of the state. Well, one of my buddies from the UP said, hey, Avery, not really morel season up here yet. And he sent me a picture of his front yard, and there was 2 feet of snow on the ground and 4-foot snow drifts, snow piles at the end of his driveway. I hear you. And that's one of the challenges of working with such a geographically diverse state. It's wonderful. It's wonderful that our state is so big and covers so many different areas, so many different types of habitat, and even different climates during these shoulder months, the spring and summer months. So I hear you. I will keep that in mind. But right now, outside the studio, it is an absolutely gorgeous day. And it looks like it's going to be for the next few days at least. Fishing across our state right now is on fire, both for silverfish and for goldfish. Do you know what I mean when I say silver and gold? No, I don't mean Burl Ives' old song, Silver and Gold. I mean silverfish, salmon, and gold-colored fish, walleye. Steelhead fishing has been very good on our Michigan steelhead rivers. Early season trolling on the west side of the state is off to a good start. Often in Michigan, we think about going west for silverfish and going east for gold-colored fish. And I think that makes a lot of sense because you look at Lake Erie, the Detroit River, Lake St. Clair, and Saginaw Bay. They're all on the east side of the state. So you do traditionally go east for gold. But the fishing's on fire. I'm seeing lots of pictures of big, beautiful fish. None that I have caught. I haven't been on the water for several weeks, a few weeks now. Last time I was out was with Nick Grillo of Michigan Brand Meats on the Saginaw River. Haven't been fishing since. Actually, what I'm trying to do is get several projects done around the house and maybe get a little bit ahead of things so when the turkey season kicks off and my springtime fishing season kicks off in full, I'll be ready to go. I will be ready to go. I have some goals for my fishing season this year. Number one, I want to get all the trips and the fishing trips and river cruises I have committed to. I need to get those done. I did overextend myself this summer, but they were all for good causes. They all made money for charities that I am involved in and really think the world of, and I got a little overzealous. I saw these trips going for a good price. Yeah, I'll give you a second one. Yeah, we can do another one. Well, that's all well and good till I look at my calendar for the summertime. It's like, man, I might have to be actually like a full-time charter captain this summer and still try to do my regular job. That's a good problem to have, isn't it? I also want to get better at big water trolling for walleye. Now, I've been doing it 30, 35 years. You'd think I'd have a pretty good handle on it by now. And there are days when I can catch my fair share of fish, but there are other days where I feel like I've never done it before. And they have me banging my head against the side of the angler quest trying to figure out what's going on. I can usually figure things out and get some fish, but I want to try to get to the point, and maybe I never will, right? Maybe I never will. Maybe I'm just wired differently than some of these people like a Mark Romanek or a Lance Valentine. When they hit the water, they're looking at it from a different perspective than I am. They're looking at it from a far more detail-oriented. They're more in-depth. They're trying to think, I hate to put it this way, but they're trying to think like a fish. When I go out there, I'm like, okay, where did I get fish yesterday? I'll go to the same spot, I'll put the same baits out, and light up a cigar and have a good day on the water. So I want to try to put myself in a little bit maybe more, a different mindset, a more productive mindset maybe. I have fun. I have as much fun as anybody. And I think the crews who go out with me have fun. At least they tell me they do. I also want to spend more time trying to figure out side scan. Now, I don't have the forward-looking sonar on my Angler Quest, but I do have side scan. And I run it. I run it almost every time I'm out there, but I don't spend a lot of time looking at it and trying to figure it out. It seems to me, I'm pun intended, missing the boat here by not being better at using my side scan. If you can look out to the boat, 50 feet, 80 feet, 100 feet to the sides of the boat, both sides, and see fish, that would tell me a lot, but I tend not to do it. And I also, once again, want to experiment with going out to deeper water. Now, I am a skinny water rat. I love skinny water. And I say skinny water rat, like river rat. I use that in a good way. I love skinny water. If I could fish the entire summer in 10 feet of water or less, I would do it. Because it's easy to find the fish in there. You know where they're going to be. They're going to be in that 10 feet of water. When they're in there shallow, they're in there for a reason. They're in there feeding. So if there are fish in the skinny water, they're easy to catch, and it's a good day of fishing. I mean, you can put your baits so close to your offshore boards that you can net fish with the board still on the line. That's how tight and skinny and shallow you can fish. But when they're not there, they're not there, and you got to go looking for them. So I need to get a little better with going out deep. My first goal right now, though, is the Michigan turkey season. My season starts next Saturday, the 22nd. I have ZZ, the Southern Michigan Private Land season. That's from the 22nd of April right on through the mosquito season, the month of May. But as much as I love turkey hunting, I don't want to be turkey hunting at the end of May. By then, I want to be fishing and getting ready for my Ontario bear hunt. I was getting a little bit concerned. My number one property, which is very close to the house, a farm that my buddy Doug owns and graciously allows me to hunt there, I haven't been seeing any birds. I've seen big flocks of birds near there, but I haven't been seeing any birds on that farm at all. And I was getting concerned. So this morning on the way into the studio, I drove over to the farm early, and I was going to be lazy. I wasn't even going to get out of the truck. I was going to drive the 2-track back to the edge of the woods and just sit there for a few minutes and see if I could hear any birds gobbling. Because if there's birds gobbling, okay, I know they're there, and I'm good to go. As I'm halfway down the 2-track, I got both windows open. I'm just getting ready to slow down and stop. And in front of me, I see a longbeard come walking across the edge of the woods. Right between the spot where I put my blinds, one of 2 blinds. So I thought, okay, that helps. Now, in the meantime, I thought, I need to have a backup spot here. So my son James was saying, hey, have you checked the trail cameras on our leased property? We lease some property as a family for deer hunting. I said I have, and he said, you need to check them. And I checked the trail cam pictures, and there's this bird walking through one of the food plots. He's got a beard on him like a paintbrush. He's a huge bird. When I saw that, I texted Gene, our friend who has the lease property. I said, would you mind if I need to, would you mind if I turkey hunt out there this spring? He said, no, come on, go ahead, come on out. He said, we got quite a few birds, including a couple of longbeards. I thought, okay. So now I got 2 spots. And if I need it, I got more, but I got 2 spots where I know there are birds. So I'm getting excited. I will go out this week and just fine-tune that new 10-point crossbow I got. I'll take that out and make sure I'm good to go. I'm quite sure I am, but I'll make sure I got some new shooting sticks with a bog. I don't know how to say this. Bog pod head on them. You'll know what that means if you're a shooter, which allows me to keep the bow or gun set up in front of me on the shooting sticks so I don't have the extra motion, the extra movement of picking it up off the ground and putting it on the shooting sticks. That'll help. So I'm pretty excited about that. Speaking of turkey season, coming up after the break here, Jeania Canel of Jay's Sporting Goods talks about turkey guns. What do we need for turkey hunting? Can we do it with a 410? Bill Pyles of Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters joins me at the end of the hour. If you want to hunt Ohio with him this year, you better hurry up. Our October hunt is full, but he has a few more openings yet. In hour number 2, we're talking food plots with Rich Chrzan of Michigan-based Killer Food Plots. Then Christian Lesage of the DNR reminds us it's time to get your new fishing license. And we have a very interesting Ask Avery question this week, talking about guns and marijuana. What's legal now? How does that affect things? Now, Dark Charlie, don't give me that look. And in our third hour, we're fishing Southeast Michigan with Brad Smyth, and we wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner. That's coming up this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK, that's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Tawas on WIOS, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Marquette on WDMJ, 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Killer Food Plots, Michigan-based, family-owned. There's two key phrases I love right there. Michigan-based, family-owned, Killer Food Plots. It's getting to be that time of year, isn't it? At least here in the southern part of the state, it certainly is. Rich Chrzan will be joining me in the second hour about how to get ready to get into the food plot planting season. But you can check out their website at killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com to learn more about the company, the products, and the services they offer. That's killerfoodplots.com. Speaking of Michigan-based, family-owned, if you have spent any time listening to this show in the past, you know, or watching the old Outdoor Magazine TV show, you know about my relationship with Jay's Sporting Goods. Michigan-based, family-owned, outdoor superstores. 2 stores in Michigan now, one in Gaylord and one in Clare. If you go to Clare and you go back to the gun department, that department is ran by Jeania Canel. She's in charge of the gun department there, and she has been at Jay's for many, many years. I consider Jeania to be a gun expert, a shooting expert, and just a very, very nice person. And she joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Jeania, welcome back. How are you?
I am good, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing great. It was so nice to run into you at the store there. My wife Denise and I were up there. I was picking up a new crossbow, and it was just really nice to run into you.
It was nice to see you as well. It's been a while.
It has been a while. and also, I have to thank you for the suggestion you made on the shotgun for my grandson Carter and his trap shooting. You know, he was looking to upgrade a little bit. I had an old shotgun that he used for his first year. Second year, he wanted to upgrade a little bit, and I didn't want to get crazy, Jeania. And you suggested the perfect gun. He loves it, and he's shooting it well. So thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome.
Let's talk a little bit about shotguns for the springtime turkey season. Now, you at Jay's would love to see us come out and buy a new shotgun, and I would encourage people to do that. But what do we need? Can we get by, at least for the beginning shooter, the casual turkey hunter? Can we take whatever we've got in the gun safe there, or what do you recommend, Jeania?
Oh, absolutely. You can take what you have. You just need to maybe make some final tunes to it change out your choke tube to a full or an extra full, or buy one of the, turkey tubes that are set up for specifically turkey hunting to give you that tighter pattern. And we do carry some of those brands in that. You can switch out your sights so that you have more of a fiber optic type sight than just a plain bead sight, if you will. And also, if you can get your hands on it, which some of the accessories are still a little difficult to get, but, going down to a shorter barrel on a gun, if they do make them, in interchangeable, and then also maybe going and getting just a regular turkey barrel, because some companies do offer that as an accessory as well. So you can absolutely use what you have. If you don't want to go to the extent of switching anything out, you can still use what you have. The main differences are the choke tube and the barrel length.
Well, let's talk about choke tubes, and we're going to get real basic here for a minute. But what is it that the choke does? I mean, you've got one type of choke for trap or skeet shooting, and you got another type of choke for turkey hunting. What is a choke? What's it do?
Well, it basically restricts the shot as it comes out the end of the barrel. So it gives you, it's what makes your pattern either open or tighter.
And with turkey hunting, you want it, as tight as possible?
Yeah. Yep, because your target is very small, so you want that to be a tight pattern.
Can you actually over-choke a gun to make it so tight that it ends up spraying rather than constricting the shot?
You probably could if you didn't have the right ammo and the right choke tube, because they still will like a certain recipe, if you will. Some of them aren't as picky, but some you can, and some shooters are that picky that they will try different chokes and different ammo and pattern their firearms and see what patterns the best, and then they know, and then that's what they use.
So now you bring in the ammo. There's the other wild card out there, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep, we're doing pretty good right now. We don't have, some like 2 3/4 and 3 inch, or 3.5. We might not have a full spread of that. We may have, a choice or two in something, but we do have a little wider base than we did a year ago.
So when patterning a shotgun, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but it's a combination of the choke and the ammo, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so you have to, the only way to figure this out is to shoot it and see what the gun wants.
Yes, that is correct.
So how do you?
And like I say, not every person is that particular, but there are some that are. You can find a load that will do what you want it to do, but there are some hunters, some shooters out there that want to see exactly what that can do, and then that's when they begin to play with different recipes and get it tuned in right to where they want it. You don't see that as much in the turkey part as you do some, the long range and the hunters going on, these big trips and stuff like that. But we do see some of it in the turkey part of it.
Well, and I can understand that. It is nice to know where your shot is going. So when you put that front bead on the head of the turkey, you're reasonably satisfied you're going to make a good shot.
Right. And the other thing, too, which I think we've talked about before, is that, you and I can go into, we'll say to Jay's together, and we can buy the same identical firearm, the same exact choke tube, and the same exact ammo, and our guns may totally pattern different.
Why is that?
I think it has to do with maybe some of how their, the final put together is, and also maybe some of the contents of the material and the steel of the barrels and stuff. I don't get that science, I guess, into that part of it, but I've seen it happen with some high-dollar firearms at the range. So, and we've seen it happen here, just throughout with some specific things. And not that the pattern isn't good by any means, but, they're just kind of shocked that, well, he's shooting the same thing I am, and he's getting this, and here I am, my pattern ain't as tight or something. So there's some science behind it. I don't have the answers to that. I just know that I've seen it happen.
Well, you just know you know the results. That's all
Mm-hmm.
we need to know. In general, guns today, Jeania, how do they compare to the quality of guns, say, when you first started at Jay's years ago? Are today's guns, are they going to be heirlooms? Can we pass them down? Or are they like everything else in today's society? They're almost disposable these days.
So it's kind of twofold. I think we've seen throughout the industry some manufacturers change hands over the course of time. So some of the guns that might have been made by them years ago may have more of a collector value than what there is in the manufacturing of today. Not saying that they're not good quality, but just when you change hands, sometimes you lose a little bit of that niche. As far as quality of firearms, I would like to think that Jay's tries to pride ourselves on quality products. So if it's something that we don't feel is going to be a good fit for what, we pride ourselves on, we don't bring everything in. We try to stay with the names that we know our customers know. Savage, for example, they've always been a run-of-the-mill kind of, brand, but they're known to be one of the most accurate guns right out of the box. So just because they're that middle line, if you will, and some of theirs are quite expensive depending on what model you're looking at, but, they price isn't always perfection, I guess. You can buy some inexpensive firearms that have really, really good ability for quality of accuracy and just staying well made and put together. So I kind of chuckle because back in the day when Jay was around, we used to have, and back then you didn't see a lot of synthetic stock guns. It was all wood. You used to be able to call, Seiko up and give them, $75 and they'd hand pick you a piece of wood. You don't see that today. So those guns, if you've got them, they are kind of sought after right now because you don't see them. But it just depends on the brand, I think, and what the person is looking for. But passing guns down, absolutely. I think that's a great thing to do if you have children or family or even friends that that you've known to come be accustomed to as a friend, and you want to pass those along. I think that's a great thing.
I think you were reading my mind when you brought up the wood versus synthetic stocks, because I was going to ask you that as my next question. When I was a kid growing up, you could only get wood, and no matter how much I babied these guns and no matter how much I took care of them, when I took them out and used them as they're designed to be used in the field, I would scratch them, and it would make me sick. These synthetic stocks these days, I mean, they're so tough, they're so durable, but are they going to hold up? Are they a good investment? Or if you really want a fine firearm, should you stick with wood?
I think it depends on the person because we do sell a lot of synthetic stocks, and we do have wood stock guns too. But as a general rule, I see synthetic going out the door a lot more than wood does, and synthetic holds up a lot better. Now you take the Henry lineup, and that's pretty much all they offer. And some of their firearms that people want is just the wood, so they're going to buy them and they're going to use them. It's not going to matter in that aspect, but some of that adds character. There's a story to be told behind it. So teach their own.
Well, and you mentioned Henry, and we've gotten away from turkey guns. We'll get back to him in the next segment. But you mentioned Henry. I've never owned a Henry, but it's one of those guns. I don't know if it's their marketing or what. I just feel like I want one just because I feel like everybody should have a Henry.
Yeah, I think they do a very good job with their marketing. They take a very, very a lot of pride in what they do, and they take good care of their consumer and their dealers and whatnot. So they're definitely doing something right, and we sell a ton of them, and they're nice looking guns, very nice looking guns. So I have one in my collection actually that was given to me from the company here. They had some guns made for our 50th anniversary, so I was subject to one of those. So
nice. Congratulations on that. We're talking with Jeania Canel, who is the manager of the gun department at Jay's Sporting Goods Clare location. Jeania mentioned it, but I got to follow up on this. I think one of the things that sets like a Jay's apart from the other retailers, the mass superstores, is the folks at Jay's are there for a reason. They're there because they love the outdoors. They're there because they have knowledge of the outdoors, and they're not going to lead you astray. I'm not saying that the other companies will intentionally, but you might get somebody working in the gun department that really isn't the expert or have the knowledge that you would like them to have if you're putting your hard-earned dollars down. You won't find that at Jay's, jsportinggoods.com, jsportinggoods.com. More with Jeania Canel of Jay's after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Traverse City on WTCM 580 AM. And north of the bridge in Escanaba on WCHT 600 AM 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Michigan-based Whack'em and Plack'em. Now, it's kind of a funny name, kind of a cool name, but it's a very cool and unique way to show off your trophies. Use them with shoulder mounts, European mounts, even fish. For details, check out the website, nontypicalinnovations.com. That's nontypicalinnovations.com. Check out what they have to offer, see if it will suit your needs, and if so, make an order, and you'll be helping out a small Michigan-based family-owned operation, nontypicalinnovations.com. Speaking of Michigan-based family-owned, on a different scale, Jay's Sporting Goods. Go to their website, jaysportinggoods.com. That's jaysportinggoods.com. Jay's was the first company that I ever partnered with. The late Kathy Poet, daughter-in-law of Jay Sporting Goods, is the one who made this all possible. She said, we will help you, we will get you started, and she gave me the confidence and the boost to make this all happen. So I am extremely loyal to the folks at Jay's, including Jeania Canel, who is the manager of the gun department at Jay's Clare store. Jeania, before the break, we were talking about turkey guns, but I took you off track. Let's go back to turkey guns. Okay. You mentioned you want a short barrel. Why is that?
Well, turkey have such great eyesight, so the shorter the barrel, the less there is out there to swing when you're, getting on target.
So you say if you buy a gun specifically for turkeys, it's going to come with a short barrel, but a lot of guns you can switch out the barrel. What length are we looking at for an ideal turkey gun?
A turkey's typically the 21 to 24 inch, and it'll be choked. You'll have interchangeable chokes at the end, like we talked earlier, but that's typically what the length is for the turkeys.
Obviously, with a turkey gun or a lot of other guns, it's easy to change out the chokes. Are there some guns even made today that you just can't change a choke? What about the old poly choke? Is that even around anymore?
No, not that I'm aware of. We see it come in on used guns occasionally, but I'm not aware of anybody that puts those on.
But there are some guns, though, that you can't adjust the choke on. So you just got to do with the best you can, right?
Yes. Very, very few that are made today of that, but yes, there are some out there.
When I think of a turkey gun, I think of a 12 gauge, but I know talking with you in the past, you can go a lot smaller than that if you're set up right.
That's correct. You can 20 gauge will do the trick. That's what my daughter started out on. So, 410 would probably be a little tricky, but for some of the youth hunters, if they did it right and had time behind the gun, I think they could do that as well, using like the right choke, the right ammo kind of thing. But definitely there's options out there.
I was surprised a couple of years ago at SHOT Show when some of the companies came out with a 410 turkey load.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So what is your, what's the maximum effective range, in your opinion, with a turkey gun for this spring if you're set up right?
Boy, it depends on the gun and the choke tube. Some of those choke tubes have the extended range. They're not flush mounted to the barrel. And depending on the gun and the ammo and the choke tube today, I'd 50 yards maybe.
Yeah. No, I've heard that. And I've heard a lot of guys say, "Oh, I'll take a shot longer than that." But that's, that's up to the individual hunter. I want to talk more too about the. I'm going to call them optics. I think you said they're sights. What are our options there, Jeania?
Well, actually, you can do optics and you can change out sights. So, if you're going to look to change out your sights, the True Glow Company, a few others, they'll make actual sights that they call, the Gobble Stopper and, different turkey names as such. And they'll just be a different type of a sight. They'll be the True Glow so that you can see them in the low light conditions. And they might be a ring for the front sight or the rear sight, and then the front sight would be a bead that would match up to that. Some of them are just bar sights, they're just the fiber optic in a long set up. Some of them kind of look like rifle sights, if you will, and on the rear, and then the front's just a short blade. So there's those options that you can do. And then as far as if you want to really use an optic on one, the red dots, and Trugel makes quite a few different options in little red dots that you can put on them.
And you can actually get those pretty cheap.
Yeah. Yep.
And again, before we let you go, you mentioned this earlier, but what about availability these days, this spring, of guns, accessories, and ammo? It was pretty rough there for a while.
It was. Things are starting to come in. Now, it's not always, what we're looking for at the moment, but, we're there for a while. We couldn't get Ruger 1022s, we couldn't get Henrys, and now we've got a good mix of those. Our hunting rifle racks and our shotgun racks are full again. Pistols, we're full on those. Ammo. My guy in ammo there, Kevin, he said, I'm making a move. I said, what are you moving to? And he says, well, I've got more 30-06 and 30-30, I think he said. He says, so I'm moving some stuff around so I can get this in there. And I'm like, that's a problem worth having, So, yeah, things are starting to look up. So,
Jeania, appreciate that. Jeania Canel of Jay's Sporting Goods. I'll always enjoy talking with you and getting your insight. The website, jaysportinggoods.com. That's jaysportinggoods.com. If anybody's going to get it, Jay's is going to get it. jaysportinggoods.com in Clare and Gaylord. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap up this first hour of the show with a good friend of mine, another good friend of mine, Bill Pyles of Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters. If you want to do an out-of-state trip, this might be your option for the fall. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Carroll on WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux on News Talk 1400 WKNW. This segment of Outdoor Magazine, speaking of north of the bridge, is brought to you by Rapid River Knives. You know I have a Rapid River knife in my pocket right now, as I always do. Handmade, in some cases custom-made, pieces of art with a lifetime guarantee, designed to last a lifetime and to hand it down to future generations. But Chris Durson of Rapid River says, don't put these things up on a shelf. Use them. They're designed to be used. The website, rapidriverknifeworks.us, rapidriverknifeworks.us. Better yet, stop by their showroom on US 2 just east of Rapid River, and you will see what I mean. rapidriverknifeworks.us. I like to say that the Outdoor Magazine radio show is about the outdoors here in Michigan, but occasionally I step beyond Michigan. Like, very soon I'll be heading in a month or so to Ontario for a springtime bear hunt. And this fall, I'm going back to Ohio to bow hunt with my good friend Bill Pyles of Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters. I bring this up because now is the time. If you want to book an out-of-state hunt, this is the time to do it. I recommend Bill because I know him. Look, you can spend a lot of money on a hunt and end up with a bad outfitter. I've been there. A bad outfitter in a bad area. I'm telling you right now, if you're looking for an out-of-state hunt and you're looking for some level of comfort, I'm giving it to you. I've hunted with Bill many times. I'm going back there this fall, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Bill, welcome back. How are you?
Hello, Mike. How are you, sir?
I am doing great. On the way into the studio this morning, I swung by my number one turkey hunting spot, and I found a big long beard walking right where I'm going to put my blind, so all is good in my world.
All is good. Hey, we leave for Kentucky. We leave for Kentucky just as soon as I'm done with you. We leave for Kentucky, so I'm pretty excited.
Well, I appreciate you sticking around, and you're pretty excited about this fall coming up too, aren't you?
Yes, we picked up a couple new farms, and the sign on these farms is unbelievable. And they're in Licking County, which Licking County is right now is unprecedented for whitetail hunting. So yeah, it's we have kept all of our original farms, so. We're just adding piecemeal here and there, and we're looking pretty good for the fall.
Bill, you've been doing this for a long time. You're an icon down there. You're an icon in my mind as well. What do you have to offer hunters?
We're a fully guided operation. We run 5-day hunts with meals and lodging. Everything is set up. All our hunters do is hunt. That is it. We take care of all the details. We take care of everything. All you have to do is one shot and one shot only.
That's your job. Shoot, shoot, shoot.
That's it. Shoot, shoot, shoot those bows till your arms fall off.
And you do allow, in fact, you welcome crossbow hunters.
Most definitely, yeah. Ohio's been crossbow legal for, I think, over 40 years now. So we're one of the first states, and a crossbow is a very effective tool for, older people, people that don't have time to shoot, people that have injuries. It's a great tool.
Well, I'm glad you added something other than older people, because if you stayed just with older people, I was going to say, okay, our interview's over. Have a good day, Bill. See ya.
I should say more mature people.
Okay, I have to admit to that. And listen, the reason I've got you on right now, I've been promoting this, outing we're going to have October 16th to the 21st. That's filled up now, but you do have a couple of spots left in your season. They're going to be gone soon. That's why I wanted to have you on now, Bill, because you're going to fill up here very soon.
Yeah, so I appreciate you having me on too, Mike. The hunt for the Avery Outdoor Magazine hunt is full, which is great. We've had a great time the past couple of years. Killed a few deer. If we can just get that weather right, we'll be in business.
Yeah, that's.
But we
sure.
have a few spots open for November. It's a little slow right now. I think the economy and what's going on, all over the world has got something to do with it. And some of the other outfitters I've talked to are a little bit slow too. So.
November, man, this should be a good hunt.
Yes, the dates are November 6th through the 10th and November 13th through the 17th, and that's right in the middle of the peak of our rut.
I was going to say,
so if you're a rut hunter, that's those dates are great.
Yeah, you're killing me with those dates right there.
You're more than welcome to come back.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to coming down and hunting in October. The website, OhioBowhuntingOutfitters.com. You can get all the details there, including a phone number to get in touch with Bill, OhioBowhuntingOutfitters.com. Bill, good luck on your turkey hunting adventure, and we'll be talking again soon.
Yeah, and one more thing.
Yeah.
If you mention Avery Outdoor Magazine, it's 10% off the hunt.
Ooh. Do I get 10% off my hunt if I say my own name?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'll do that. All right, mention Avery, you get 10% off. I appreciate that, Bill. Good luck. We'll talk again.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mike.
All right, Bill Pyles of Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters, the website, OhioBowhuntingOutfitters.com. Use the name Avery. Hey, you want to be a name dropper? Drop my name and get 10% off on your hunt. Go to that website. If for some reason you're not online or I don't know, if you want to go through me, send me an email to Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and I will put you in touch with Bill, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com or OhioBowhuntingOutfitters.com. Use the promo code Avery and get 10% off. How cool is that? All right, we'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back in our second hour, we're going to talk about food plots. It's getting to be that time. We're going to talk with Rich Chrzan of Michigan-based Killer Food Plots. Then Christian Lesage of the DNR reminds us it's time to get your new fishing licenses and ORV licenses, in fact. And our Ask Avery segment deals with, Charlie, don't look at me, guns and marijuana. I know, it sounds bad, but it's actually a very interesting question, and we'll answer it in Hour 2 of Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to Hour number 2 of this week's radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. Yeah, this is a radio show. And I say that to set this program apart from the many fine outdoor podcasts that are out there based here in the great state of Michigan. There are lots of very, very good outdoor podcasts out there, and I listen to a lot of them. And I would encourage you to check them out as well, because there's a podcast for any topic out there these days. But this is a radio show. It's the only syndicated 3-hour outdoor radio show in Michigan. And it's on more than 30 stations. For that, I thank you. Well, I thank God first and foremost, but I thank you for your support. I wouldn't be able to do this without you. I do recommend, if you can, to listen to the radio show on your local radio station. But if for some reason your local radio station doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, isn't it nice to know that I do have a podcast version of the show available? There's no difference. The podcast is the same content, the same questions, the same comments, the same radio guests as the radio show. The podcast and radio show are the same, except that the radio you listen to on your radio station, and they get the content before the podcast is uploaded. You can hear the podcast on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, on my Facebook page, on Amazon Music, Audible, Twitter, LinkedIn, Apple Music, Google Play, yada, yada, TuneIn, Spotify, Stitcher, yeah, you know the drill. I even put it on YouTube. I also do podcasts for some of my advertising partners, including Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest Boats, Primal Outdoors, and Polar Craft Boats. And we're going to record another Angler Quest podcast when we're done here in the studio. So keep an ear out for that. Regardless, though, of when you are listening to this, whether you're listening to the broadcast version or the podcast version of the show, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. As you look out your window right now, what do you see? Well, as we're here in the studio, I see a beautiful springtime day. Now, I realize if you're in the Yoop, you might still be looking at snow, and I apologize for even bringing this subject up, but it's gonna come up here sooner or later. Hopefully sooner. Food plots. Food plots are a huge thing in the outdoors here in Michigan and across the country. A lot of people putting in food plots because you can't bait, especially in the lower peninsula. Since you can't bait, food plots are a wonderful option. Rich Chrzan is the guy at the helm of Michigan-based family-owned Killer Food Plots, a company I enjoy working with and have for several years now. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Hey, Rich, I really enjoyed getting to talk with you and having you come up to our Wednesday Night Live at the Lumberjack Restaurant a few weeks ago. I appreciate you making that drive, and we had a good night.
We did, Mike. I appreciate the invite. I met a lot of really cool people. It was a pretty cool event. I appreciate you extending the invite out to me.
Well, we will have more in the future, and I will make sure to invite you to those as well. Now, at that time, Rich, you were primarily doing property consults. You hadn't started to turn any dirt yet. Has that changed now with the weather being the way it is?
No, I'm still not turning any dirt. It's still Michigan. It's a beautiful day out here, but, in my area on April 4th, we were getting pounded with hail so bad that it destroyed about everything out here. So we got a little bit of time yet. I mean, the soil's getting up there in temperature. The weeds need to grow a little more. I mean, if you sprayed something off last year and you have a blank canvas for this spring, you could probably start working it. There are people in Ohio that are planting right now, but it's just a little too soon for Michigan. So Michigan doesn't usually work with us well in the spring.
Well, Mother Nature here in Michigan doesn't work well with us a lot of times on a lot of different subjects and times of year. So what are you looking for, Rich? Are you looking for a specific temp, soil temp before you get going?
So, the soil temps, before you put fertilizer down, the soil temps should be above 45 degrees. And then to spray them, if you spray too early, you're only going to get that certain percentage of the weeds that can grow at a lower temperature. You really want the temperature of the soil to be between 60 and 70 degrees consistently before you spray, so you can try and get all those weeds right, on the first time. That's pretty crucial because, grasses will take over your plot real quick if you don't kill them off. So, I'm kind of holding off right now. I'm doing soil samples. Those can be done. Those are the most important thing of a food plot. So I'm out doing those, getting plans, getting ready to see what the weather will do, and then we're going to start spraying and start doing some turning. So
it always comes back to soil samples. I hear this all the time. I heard it from Nick. I hear it from you. Why is that such a big deal?
Well, because you can spend a lot of money on seed and everything else, throwing it in the dirt, but if you don't have the right nutrients to start that plant, you're going to really struggle, and you're not going to maximize your output. You really want to maximize the tonnage of food you put out there for the deer. So if your soil pH is like at a 5 and you're not trying to amend that, and you're throwing in something that requires a 6.5 to 7.5 pH, you're not going to get what you want. It's going to be disappointing. So yeah, it is the blueprint. It is the building block for your food plot, that soil sample. It's very important. I tell people that all the time. I do not work dirt unless I can have a soil sample, or they sign off that they didn't require one. It's just where you start. It's the cheapest $22 you're going to spend on that food plot to achieve what you want.
A stupid question. How do you take a soil sample? How do you get this sample?
So we have on our website, you can go there and we have examples of how to do it, YouTube videos. So what you want to do is you want to get past the organic matter, the root base. So you want to take that 2 to 4 inches, scrape it away, and then you want to grab that bottom 5, 6, 7 inches of dirt. And you would do it in multiple spots of your food plot. So if you're doing like an acre, I would suggest you take anywhere from 13 to 25 samples, enough to get about 3 cups of dirt to mix it all together, make kind of a slurry with your dirt, and then fill the pouch and send that in. I suggest not using your old garden shovel that's sitting outside and all rusted. You can get deposits of iron off that, and it could mess up your results. So we use a stainless steel probe that's designed for it. You can use a plastic garden shovel, a stainless steel gardening shovel, anything like that is very effective.
Man, I hadn't even thought of that, contaminating the sample with an old rusty shovel.
Yeah, I mean, if you use a shovel enough, right, and it's rusted, and you dig enough dirt with it, what happens? It shines up. So that dirt or that iron and that rust deposits are going into your soil. So not that it would affect too much, but it will affect your soil sample.
So I asked you if there was a perfect soil temperature. Is there a perfect pH you're looking for?
Well, the perfect pH is 7. 7.0 is neutral. There's a variety of seed that will grow in lower pH. So that's what's very important, to know your pH. You may go into a food plot thinking this is what you want to plant. But if you're set on that and the soil's not correct, you're going to be very disappointed. So maybe that first year you start correcting the soil with the right fertilizer, and you go with like a oats, something like a Climatize. Our Climatize has buckwheat in it, and those are great soil builders. And they're great attractants for deer. They got the nutrients a deer need. They'll come to it. It might not be the brassicas or something you wanted to do that year, but you're still going to have an attractive food plot that's building your soil to what you want to accomplish in the future. That's important.
I find it interesting that you say that this may be a multi-year process. If your soil is off quite a bit, you may not be able to bring it into where you want it in just one season, 1 year.
Yeah, I mean, you can get stuff to grow. Don't get me wrong. You can throw a bunch of fertilizers at it and stuff. I mean, you see the farmers do it all the time. But to truly amend your soil in a natural state, then it may take some of that soil building, the 2-year procedure, 3-year procedure, or you may be able to amend it pretty fair in the first year with the right crop and the right fertilizer. Take your soil sample the next year, and you can put something else in. It really just depends on the starting point of your soil, how long it's going to take you to get there. That's why soil samples are so important.
We're talking with Rich Chrzan of Killer Food Plots, the website killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com if you want to learn more about the company, the products they offer, soil samples. Go to the website killerfoodplots.com. We've got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, I want to continue this conversation with Rich. So many questions. How big should a food plot be? Does it, are you better to have one big food plot or a bunch of small food plots? and the shape of them. Does the shape matter? Does a square food plot over a round food plot? And why is everybody so food plot crazy these days? It's, again, there's a big business built up in Michigan and across the country with people who say they can come into your property, charge you a lot of money, increase the habitat on your property, but not everybody can. It's one of those industries, it's one of those businesses, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, that has a significant number of people who aren't qualified and aren't the experts they say they are. That's not the case with Rich. He's been doing this for a long time. Rich Chrzan of Killer Food Plots, killerfoodplots.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY. That's 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra, 1330 WTRX. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY, 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Suspension Max. Suspension Max, the folks I went to when it was time to lift and level my new ZR2 from Garber. You know, these trucks come out of the shop these days, and they're beautiful, but they're all running downhill. Look at them. The front end of the trucks is running lower down the road than the rear end is. Now, I think this is what I realized, that they do that so when you put a load in the back of the truck, it levels the thing out. But really, how often do you go down the road with 500 pounds of dirt in the back of your truck? You don't. And so the truck looked like they're going downhill all the time. I don't like that look. Now, that ZR2 came 2 inches lifted from the factory, but I had them put another 1.5 inches in the front to lift it up even more so I could put bigger tires underneath it. And man, does that thing look sharp. They can lift and level your truck as well. Check them out online at suspensionmax.com, and Max is 2 X's, suspensionmax.com. While you are online, please go to my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Then head on over to killerfoodplots.com. Killer Food Plots, of course, the website of Michigan-based Killer Food Plots. If you are looking for a way to improve the habitat on your property and maybe put in some food plots as well, check out Killer Food Plots. Rich Chrzan is the guy behind, he's the guy at the helm of Killer Food Plots. Rich, there are so many different topics we could talk about. I sometimes feel like this whole concept of food plotting in general can be overwhelming to somebody who's just getting started.
It can. If you're not familiar with it, it can be real overwhelming. So contact us if it is overwhelming and you got questions. It's not rocket science. It's just a system you got to go through. And again, you start with a foundation. Your foundation's your soil, which the soil sample is going to do that. And that is the key place to start. You need to know what your soil is. You need to know how much sun you're going to have in that spot. Those are key things that are going to be successful in creating a ton of food for your deer. So when you're picking that spot out in the woods or in a field, you want to see if it's getting 6 hours of sun, 2 hours of sun, what it's getting, and then you can choose your seed from that point too. We have seed that will grow with side sun filtering through into the woods, up to full sun. So there's 11 different KFP brands that will actually adapt to almost any situation.
Does it matter how big a food plot is, or even what shape it is?
So I do not like a square or, like a real big rectangle food plot. You don't really want to give them that park view. You don't want a deer to walk out to the edge and look over this whole entire food plot and say there's nothing there. Now, a mature deer is going to walk back in the woods and say, I'm going to wait till dark. That food's still going to be there at dark. I feel safer. I'm going to wait. I love an hourglass-shaped food plot because they can enter one end of it and it shrinks down and they can't really see what's in the other end of that food plot, which will make them travel through there longer, stay on your property longer. Deer are curious. They want to see what's there. So if you can block that off, like our Border Patrol extended stand screening, they will get curious. They will want to walk through there and see what's in that field. If they can see what's in the field, that big buck's going to be 20, 30 yards back in the woods. You're never going to know he's there. He's going to walk around, scan that field, and wait to come back until it's dark. So it's real important if you can kind of block it off. If you got a big square food plot, put some screening through the center of it. Make kind of a maze. Make the deer walk around that screening to get to the other side of that food plot, and then maybe be posted up on that end. And that deer will follow that screening to you, turn to go around it to check out the other side, and it gives you an opportunity you may not have had during the daylight otherwise.
I got you. So I think you've actually answered my next question. I was going to say, so are you setting up to hunt on the food plot, or are you setting up back off the food plot and trying to intercept the deer on the way in and the way out?
So if you've got enough area and you can have a destination food plot, and even have kill plots, I call them, in the woods, I like to set on the way to or on the way from the food plot back in the woods. Cameras are great for that nowadays, right? You can pretty much get the route of the deer by fall. So what I like to do is set off into the woods, find that travel corridor, and I like to get them on the way to the food or on the way back. Or you can put small kill plots in the woods that will bring the deer in earlier in the day because they feel safer, so you might get that daylight opportunity, and they'll browse back in there and they'll hang out in those kill plots before they come to the destination plot later in the day.
Is there go ahead, Rich, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead, Mike, I'm sorry.
Is there a perfect number or size, or is this going to vary completely based on your property and your situation, your conditions?
It really does. I have people that have 5 acres of property, that's it, and they want to put a kill spot on it. So more than likely, they're going to want to put something in the fall that's going to attract them deer later, and the food's going to be there later. Now, ideally, you could have an acre destination plot and small quarter-acre plot back in the woods. And I've seen people that take an entire field, 20 acres, and they will divide it with screening. And now they've got multiple food plots in one area with a variety of food for the deer. And the deer have to go through or around the screening to get to it. So it's really just depends on your situation. We discussed once before, like, I don't have a ton of field, so I like to drag my trails in the woods. All the trails we use for our ORVs and stuff, I go and I'll drag them this spring, and I'll put something in there like a lethal oat, or winter lethal oats, or a crop duster, because it takes very minimal sun. And I just utilize those trails for more food source to keep the deer on my property longer, because they will sit there and browse on that on the way to the destination plot. Now you have more of an opportunity than your neighbor does. So that's kind of huge there.
I was just thinking that's a great idea, because you take these 2 tracks and trails that weren't being used as a food source before, and you've made them something better.
Right. And I mean, it's as minimal as just taking your leaf blower out there, removing all the debris on top, the leaves, even like a landscape rake, a harrow drag, anything. Just rough that soil up. Throw some seed down on it, and if you can pack it with a roller or cultipacker, that'd be better. I can't on a lot of mine because, you get in the woods and you're dealing with stumps and rocks, and a lot of roots go through the trails. So I just do mine with like a landscape rake behind the tractor, and then I just go through and broadcast the seed. I'll drive over a little bit with the tractor to pack it in if I can. But, a lot of like the deep woods, lethal winter oats, and crop duster are great for those applications.
So you've got perennial seeds and you've got annual seeds. I'm thinking, well, why would you even want to put in an annual? If you can do it once and have it last for a few years, that would be the most cost-effective and easiest way to do it. So why is there even the option of annuals? Why not just put everything into perennials?
Well, because the annuals will produce and they mature within 30 to 45 days. So you get a ton of food, high-protein food for the deer in a short period of time. So if you do like our Carnage Braskas in the fall, I love to do them in August, the first week. Those mature in 30 to 45 days, and the deer just pound them throughout the fall. It's a great fall plot. It gives them that protein they need as the bucks are running all the does around and everyone's getting exhausted. it gives them that attractive food source that they can come back to and get all that protein and nutrients that they need to build their bodies back up. We try to do 20-30% perennial and then 70 to 80% annual. Like I say, you just get so much tonnage in such a short time on your annual food source, and it's very attractive to the deer. Now the clover is 365 days. So now you've got your spring food source, you got your late food source, and your summer food source. And they love it. I've been posting things on my Facebook page, and I've got 15, 20 deer in a clover plot all the time. Some people think they won't hit it during the summer and the late season, but they're in this all the time. So you can complement your clover by putting brassicas in your clover in August. They will grow. It's another food source. It makes a good canopy to go over the clover, so when the snow falls, the deer can knock that snow off the brassica leaves and not exert so much energy to get to the clover underneath it. So it's a win-win. You're trying to build the health of the deer, so you make it easier for them. You give them food sources they can hang around. They don't have to travel as far to get to them, but yet provides that nutrients and the protein they need to build their bodies back up in the wintertime and post-rut.
You're talking about food sources. If we're in the southern part of the state and we're surrounded by farm fields, those deer have everything they need. They got beans and corn and alfalfa all over the place. Why is a food plot even effective in the southern part of the state in farm country?
Because you're giving them something they do not have. So in my area, I can stand on my porch and I can shoot an arrow from any direction and hit a bean field, a hay field, a corn field. I am in ag country, but I give them something out here that they do not have. Deer know what is good for them. So if they can come out here and they can hit this clover and they can feel the nutrients and their body feels better, they are going to be drawn to that before they go eat something in the field that tastes like sticks and twigs. How do deer survive all year long? Their body naturally tells them what they need. So when they consume it, they naturally can feel how it's affecting them. Milk production, the does know if they're getting more milk production. So they're going to go and they're going to consume the food that makes them feel better. And by the amount of protein and all the nutrients we have in our clovers and our brassicas, they congregate to those areas. Will they go to the corn? Absolutely. It's a great bedding area, right? They can get in there and hide. But you give them that food source, you can pull them out of them nearby cornfields earlier in the day and get that daylight sighting on the mature bucks that you normally couldn't because you have something nobody around you does. That's the key.
Rich, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. You're just a wealth of information. I would love to get you back on here in a few more weeks as we really get full-blown into the food plot season if you're willing to join me again.
Absolutely, Mike. I might have to shut the tractor down and set in the truck, but I'm all about it.
I appreciate that. Rich Chrzan of Killer Food Plots, the website killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com. If you want to learn more about soil samples, the products, the seeds, the services that Killer Food Plots has to offer, Michigan-based Killer Food Plots, by the way, go to the website killerfoodplots.com. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, Kristen Lesage from the DNR reminding us it's time to get your new Michigan fishing license. Don't forget about that one. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us in Sandusky on WMIC 660 AM, 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. And here's a great deal. If you go to the website, versaskins.com, that's versaskins.com, you can save 50% right now by using the promo code HUNT50. 50% on everything on the VersaSkins website. That's a tremendous deal. Versaskins.com, HUNT50 is your code, and save half on everything. just change your skin for the season you're in. Again, versaskins.com is the website. Save 50%, versaskins.com. Well, unless you're a senior, I can't save you any money on your Michigan fishing license, but I can give you this reminder. It's time to renew your license. This is something I did here just a couple of weeks ago. The process is extremely easy. Christian Lesage is with the Michigan DNR, and he wants to talk more about this process. Christian, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us this week.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
So tell us, remind us, the new licenses went into effect, April 1st?
The new license cycle begins April 1st, and it's valid through the following March 31st. However, if you purchase a license in March, it is actually good through the following March. So it's kind of like a little bit of a bonus if you purchase it then.
Gotcha. And what does the license cover?
The license covers, let's see here.
I mean, an all species license covers all species. We don't need a trout stamp anymore, I guess is what I was trying to get to.
Right. We phased that out several years ago, or the department phased it out several years ago. So now once you purchase a fishing license, it is good for all fish. And it is required when targeting fish, amphibians, crustaceans, and reptiles in public waters of the state.
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that, like, if you were going after frogs or crayfish, you had to have a license.
Yes, you do, absolutely, and I would think that a lot of people don't know that or understand that.
Christian, you guys have made the process so easy of getting a license these days.
Oh, I agree. It's I'm big into purchasing my licenses online. It's nice to be able to have a copy on your phone whenever you need it. Although it's not always something you want to bring along when you're fishing in a stream, is to have your expensive phone with you. But you can also print a copy of that out whenever you need to.
Yeah, just go to the website, michigan.gov/DNR, and then there's a tab that says, I want to buy a license, or how is that worded, Christian? Remind me.
Basically, it's you can go to michigan.gov DNR licenses, and you can also use the Michigan DNR Hunt Fish app, which is available on Apple phones and what's the other version?
Android?
I'm losing that.
Android?
Yes, Android. Thank you. So you can go online, you get that. In fact, I downloaded that not too long ago. I purchased my license, and next year I clicked the button for next year for auto renewal. So I will receive my license basically, when it's time to get a new one. So that way you don't have to worry about it and scramble if you see an officer out there and you forgot to get one.
I had completely forgotten about the app. I'm looking to make sure I got it on my phone here. Yeah, this is great. You can do about everything on this app.
Yes, the app provides all your fishing and hunting information. It also now includes the master angler information. You can click on that and pull up information concerning that. If you catch a large fish and you want to check to see, does that fit the criteria to allow you to get a patch? All of our information is on there. We're working right now to get our inland trout and salmon regulation maps on there as well. So that will enhance it even more. But the app is really, it's really a great deal of information, and it's totally free.
Christian, who needs a license, a fishing license? What's the minimum age on that now?
The minimum age has remained 17 for many years now. It's those age 17 and older.
And that all species fish, if I remember right, is what, $26?
It's the resident annual fishing license is $26 plus all of our licenses have a $1 surcharge that's added to educate the public on these activities of purchasing licenses. The difference would be the daily fish, which is valid for 24 hours for residents and non-residents, is only $10 a day, and you can buy that on your phone anytime you need to. We also have a senior annual, which is $11 plus the additional $1 fee. Non-residents annual license is $76 plus the $1.
And we also offer a youth fishing license, which is totally voluntary, but it provides increased funding for the department, and it also allows us to get a greater federal match on that license, which is an added bonus.
I think our Michigan fishing licenses are the best deal out there. Christian Lesage, I appreciate you reminding us about this whole process and how easy it is. The website, michigan.gov/DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. And let's not be talking about senior licenses. Not quite there yet. Although this was the last full-price fishing license I will ever have to buy. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery segment. And again, it's an interesting one, I think. You heard me talk about it before. Marijuana and guns. I know, don't get worried, don't get worried. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. You can hear us on the other side of the state, Port Huron, WPHM 1380 AM. And we can go north of the bridge to Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by my friends from Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoors men and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. And a reminder, the way the Ask Avery segment works is this is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. It can be a question directed toward me or maybe something you want me to find out from somebody else. The best way to get these questions to me is to send me an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. And that's what Clifford Moran did. Clifford sent me an email to mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. And he says, Mike, can you please find out the answer to a question a friend of mine asked me? He's asking for a friend. With Michigan recreational marijuana being legal now, if one partakes in its use, how will that affect one's renewal of their CPL, concealed pistol license, and or the purchase of a stamp for a suppressor? I think these are outstanding questions. And to answer them, a friend of mine, Glen Duncan of Duncan's Outdoor Shop in Bay City, duncansoutdoor.com, Glen is intimately involved in this whole CPL training, licensing, and suppressors as well. Glen, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing just great. Did you hear me read that question, Glen?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so...
And it's a long question.
Well, it's a short question with maybe a long answer. I think, actually, when I saw this, I thought, you know what, this is a great question.
It is. And the answer is, everything that we do is based on federal law, nothing to do with state law when it comes to marijuana. So when it comes down to buying a suppressor, buying a gun, having a gun in your home, having a CPL, if you're on marijuana or even have a marijuana medical card, says you cannot have, and it's good for 1 year. So if you would come in and say that I'm on marijuana, and we're supposed to keep track of it for you for a year, that you cannot buy from me.
Wow. So I had actually forgotten about this. It's on your CPL renewal, isn't it? Do you?
Yep.
But Glen, marijuana is legal at the state level, and the CPL is issued through the state.
It is issued through the state, but the records go from the federal government. When they do your background check to make sure you're legally able to get a CPL, then it's done by the federal government. They go to the federal government and say, is he legally able to have a gun? And by saying that, it puts the marijuana then being a question by the federal government.
So if you want to smoke pot or get your card, technically and legally, you are choosing between pot and being a gun owner.
That's right. And if you have somebody in your home that has a card or taking pot, you must be able to have it locked up so there's no way that they're going to be able to get at it. So if you have a safe and they don't have the combination, they don't have the ability to get in your safe, then you're okay. But if they have the ability to get in your safe, then you are not okay.
Wow. Yeah, the more we get into this, the better this question becomes.
Yeah, it's sad because people will come in and their first thing is, and if you smell like you've been around marijuana, we got to tell you, sorry, we can't sell to you. And they'll say, well, my guy's in the car with me, he's the one smoking, I'm not. And I've been at my friend's house, and it's that deal. And I says, okay, if you're stating it wasn't you, and so if you come back, you better not smell like marijuana, or we're not going to go, and we still cannot sell to you. And a lot of people that's using marijuana, they're around it so much that it's not where they can get rid of the smell that good. So
I don't know.
It's important to us. And then with all gun shops now, all of us have cameras and stuff. So if something would happen down the road and we sold you a gun, I'm saying the person that's gotten marijuana, and we didn't know about it and stuff, but he smelled like it, there's always people standing around in the shop going, hey, do you know that guy smells like marijuana? Do you know that? Because we got the gun industry and the people that are buying guns and that are 99% perfect people. And that's the people you want to be involved with shooting and stuff. And so we've got to make sure that if we know they smell and people around us in our shop know that people that smell like marijuana, you just can't sell. You don't want to take the liability for it at all.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, walking into a gun shop smelling like pot is probably not the best idea. All right, Glenn, listen, I appreciate you answering that question. Again, the website for Duncan's Outdoor is duncansoutdoor.com. Glenn, thank you for jumping in and being our subject matter expert on this week's Ask Avery. Yeah, real quick.
April 17th, I have Tim Beeson and a lot of legislative people coming here, plus the NRA, at 1 o'clock and at 6:30 to talk about all the laws and what's coming up and what's happening with our laws.
Oh.
And so if anybody's free on April the 17th.
That's going to be a good one because some of the
1 o'clock and
some of the screwballs in Lansing are trying to. Yeah. All right, Glenn, appreciate your time. Thanks for answering this week's Ask Avery segment, DuncansOutdoor.com, and thank you to our friends at Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. Check them out online, securitycu.org, securitycu.org. And this whole pot question, this is the reason that, like, I take drug tests as a licensed charter captain because my Coast Guard license is through the Coast Guard. My captain's license is through the Coast Guard, so that's why there is a zero drug policy there as well. We will take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back in hour number 3, we're talking with Brad Smyth and Dixie Dave Miner right here.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Welcome. Thank you, Ken Hunter, by the way, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, heard on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And so glad to have you along with us as we work our way through this springtime. Again, I know if you're listening to us, if you're one of my friends in the UP and you're listening on a UP station, you might be looking out the window saying, Avery, there's still a ton of snow here. You might be seeing some grass, but there's still snow. I get it. I get it. And that is, as I was saying earlier, one of the challenges of doing a statewide show, especially in a state like Michigan, when you've got, the southern tier of states and you get up in the Keweenaw and it's 2 different worlds. Now, those 2 different worlds do offer wonderful outdoor experiences, different types of experiences, and that's pretty cool too. You think about that southern tier of states. Think about the southeast corner of the state. Detroit, Metro Detroit, a lot of people. And oftentimes when you have an area like that where there are a lot of people, the hunting and fishing maybe isn't the best. I don't know so much about the hunting in the southeast part of the state, but the fishing is actually world class. Lake Erie, Lake St. Clair, Detroit River, St. Clair River. I mean, the fisheries, the diversity of the fish, the size of the fish, it's phenomenal fisheries. And man, does it get taken advantage of this time of year. It gets hit hard. Go poking around online. You'll see pictures right now of beautiful fish, big fish. A lot of them, obviously, big spawn-filled female fish. And you might say, well, you know, those people are being greedy. They shouldn't keep those fish. And I'll agree. You shouldn't do that in a northern fishery. You couldn't do it in a northern river or a small northern inland lake. It wouldn't be good. But biologists have said over and over that it's okay on these fisheries in the southeast part of the state because the populations are just phenomenal. The size of the fish are phenomenal. And the fishermen out there love to take advantage of that. Brad Smyth is a guy who I first started talking to a couple of years ago. And he loves that southeast part of the state. In fact, his company is called Detroit Outdoor Adventures. His website is I Fish Detroit. And I is like an iPhone. ifishdetroit.com. And Brad is with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Brad, welcome back. How are you?
Good. How are you, Mike? Pleasure to chat with you.
Always a pleasure. Where do we find you today? You're not on the water right now, are you?
Nope, today was the windy day of the week, and we took the day off doing yard work, getting the garden beds uncovered. Spring has officially sprung in Michigan.
Well, it has down here by us, that's for sure. So what have you been fishing for, Brad?
Oh, well, we're taking advantage of that coho bite for a little while. It's been one of the best years I've seen in recent history on the St. Clair River and Lake Huron, and kind of switched it over to walleye the last week or so.
I got to talk more about this coho bite. I first heard about this last year, and it was a fishery. It was a bite that I didn't expect was going to be as good as it is. Tell me more about that, Brad.
Well, basically, our DNR has actually done a fairly good job of stocking and planting coho salmon along the east coast of the state on Lake Huron side, where we don't get a lot of salmon action anymore. I grew up in Port Hope during the heyday of the salmon, and then watched it collapse and decline, and now we actually have a really good mixed bag fishery. We can go out and cast or jig or troll and catch 3 or 4 different species of salmon and trout per day and target them with success. It's been pretty awesome.
This coho fishery is actually in the river, though, isn't it?
In the lake and the river. This time of year, all those fish are pushing real shallow, chasing all the bait that's trying to get warm in that shallow, 5 to 15 feet of water. And it just concentrates the amount of fish. Lake Huron's such a big, vast, body of water that come summer, it makes it really hard to target them.
So will you not see these coho in the summertime for the most part?
I mean, you can go out and try with some of the new sonar technologies. It makes it a little more productive. But for the most part, once we get a couple, 3-4 weeks of this in here, we start transitioning over to the west side where there's a bigger population just to increase our odds.
When you talk about this new sonar technology, are you talking about the front-facing sonar?
Yeah, any of the live sonars. Yep, it's pretty amazing technology for fishing extremely deep water and chasing fish that you would never be able to chase without this technology.
Tell me more about this. I've never used it. I've only seen it online, seen videos of it online. But is it as impressive in real life as they make it out to be?
I mean, it really is. There's definitely a learning curve like any piece of technology. If you're proficient with it and if you studied it enough and used it long enough, you can take advantage of situations that, like I said, wouldn't be possible with just traditional 2D sonar.
How so? I mean, could you use it in a trolling situation and actually see fish ahead of you?
Well, with the new transducer that Garmin just came out with, the 34, that one's going to give us the ability to see far enough ahead of us, and we're looking forward to this year. Probably, trying to play around with it and see if there is opportunity to see fish far enough ahead to be able to turn. Typically we're using it for more casting, jigging, bottom fishing presentations, where the fish are below us, and we're just going to drive around until we find them and then try to, target them from there.
I got you. Technology's crazy these days in the outdoors, isn't it?
It's amazing. It's like everything else, when you think it's come as far as it could possibly go, they find a way to change it up and make it new and give you even more of an advantage.
Tell me about your operation, Brad. I mean, you're a young guy. How did you get into this?
Well, I mean, I grew up fishing Detroit River since I've been, 4 or 5 years old, maybe even younger than that, really. I was on the boat hand lining and pulling wire at 3:30 in the morning when I didn't necessarily want to be out there. I thought my name was Five More, but I grew up and I learned a lot about our ecosystem and our migrations and our fish, and it was just a passion that was instilled to me through my family. My whole family's been big outdoorsmen, whether it was fishing or hunting all around the state of Michigan, and I've always found a passion for fishing in Southeast Michigan, Detroit. So,
and you actually focus on this. I mean, you've made it the slogan of your company. That's pretty cool.
Indeed, because it's an underutilized system when it comes to the big grand scheme of it. A lot of people take advantage of the early spring walleye run, but we're talking about a system where 365 days a year, there's opportunity to be had. And so, like you said, some of the most world-class fishing there is.
How does the fishing now compare there to when you were a kid coming up?
Well, see, that's the thing. I was born in 82, and by the late 80s, it was pretty much the heyday of walleye fishing. The population was rivaling what it is now. As I got into my mid-teens and early 20s, and I was doing it on my own, I would always catch flack from my grandfather, who said, "I don't know why you need all this equipment. Me and your grandmother would drift in the Delphine with night crawlers and split shot and catch all the walleye we wanted. And I'm over here with my Lowrance and all this technology, and I'm not catching limits like they were." Well, now, 20 years later, I understand the population of walleye is pushing 180 million. You can use any technique you want, any day of the week, pretty much anywhere you want to go, and have some success, if not, limit type success.
And that 180 million population number is one reason why, as I was saying going into this segment, that in that area, it's okay if recreational anglers keep a few big fish. You're not going to decimate that population. You couldn't do it everywhere, but it's okay right there.
100%. And I always sound like a broken record, but the rhetoric that a lot of people hear and a lot of people read and learn over the years, it's based on inland closed loop systems. We live in a different place. There's no place like the Great Lakes. It's an open system, and Mother Nature is 100% responsible for whether we have a good spawning class or a bad spawning class. And when we have populations this size, there's absolutely nothing recreational anglers, sport fishermen could ever do to change the population, regardless of what they kept.
Yeah, that's why when I see some of these negative comments online, I'm like, it's an ignorant comment, because people who say this, number one, why would you criticize another hunter or angler who is doing something legally in the first place? And then when they make that comment, they're showing that they don't have knowledge of that system. It just drives me crazy, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's why, I'm careful about what I actually post online, just to not have to deal with the backlash of what it was or what I did or who did what. And, it's on every individual angler and sportsman to educate themselves, whether it's about the rules or the ecosystem they're fishing in. And if they don't want to do the research and they don't want to learn from the people in our area that are educating them about this particular area, then they were taught something that doesn't have anything to do with here. And it is their fault, but partially I can understand if you were told one thing your entire life, and now somebody's trying to tell you the exact opposite. You just got to do the research on your own.
Words of advice from Brad Smyth of Detroit Outdoor Adventures, the website ifishdetroit.com, ifishdetroit.com. We've got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we'll talk more with Brad about springtime fishing for gold and silver fish in southeast Michigan, an area that has just become known as a world-class fishery for many different species. We'll talk about that and more with Brad Smyth of Detroit Outdoor Adventures here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us over in Ludington on News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN. And you can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your mid-Michigan tracker and angler quest and polar craft headquarters. For more information, check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. Linwood Beach has been a very popular spot here the last couple of weeks when Mother Nature will allow and the wind's not blowing. You get a nice day with no wind right now, and you're going to find people on the water all across the state. But on Saginaw Bay, I highly recommend Linwood Beach. Great facilities, great location, great service, great products, great people. I don't know what more I can say. LinwoodBeachMarina.com online. But this time of year, as I was saying, people are anxious. They're antsy. They want to get up. They want to take advantage of the weather, the springtime weather. And here in our state, we have world-class fishing on so many different bodies of water for so many different species of fish. Brad Smyth of Detroit Outdoor Adventures knows that very well. He makes his living chasing these fish and taking people out there on the water to share in these adventures that he loves so much. Brad, right now, if you had somebody call you or get in touch with you through your website, ifishdetroit.com, and say, okay, where is the best place to go right now and the best thing to fish for, where would you send them? Where would you take them, I should say?
Well, I mean, between Lake Erie and the Detroit River, there's really nothing rivaled if you wanted to catch walleye. I mean, it's about full throttle right now. In the last handful of days, a lot of more mature fish came in to spawn, and that's been exciting because after you do it for so many years, catching fish is catching fish. And I try to, dial in the trip for exactly what the people that want to go want to do. So, if they want to catch big fish, now is definitely the time to get out there and take advantage of it for the next couple of weeks before these fish fall back. And it'll just be it's going to be an unreal May on the Detroit River.
Why do you say that, Brad?
Well, if it's April 12th, and we have this volume of fish in the river, by May, it's going to double.
Wow. Is it the type of thing where, okay, your clients have to decide, are we going to go for numbers of fish or are we going to go for big fish? Or on your bodies of water down there, can you say, look, we can go for a large number of large fish?
Yes and no. I mean, typically in the early light hours or the late light hours, we're going to fish sub 15 feet of water. And that's typically where the spawning hens are going to lay their eggs, and it's going to be the best chance to catch, fish that are 25 inches plus. As the day wears on, those fish tend to slide off the break and go into the deeper water. And as the season wears on, a lot more of those male fish, the jacks, come in, and they're just so much more aggressive that typically, even if there was female fish down there, they're going to outcompete them. So as the season wears on, we're going to tend to catch a lot more male fish than we would female fish.
When you compare Lake Erie and the Detroit River fisheries, is it an oversimplification to say that for the most part, when you're on the big lake of Lake Erie, it's a trolling bite, and when you're in the river, it's a jigging bite? Or is that not always the case?
No, I mean, that is typically true. You could say that. What we like to do if I go out on Lake Erie, I like to try to find some fish trolling initially if I haven't been out and the weather hasn't changed over the last day or so, and find some fish. And then once we have enough fish in the box that everybody's comfortable, if they'd like to try to do some rod and hand fishing, which I prefer, honestly. If I'm not fishing for money, I typically am not trolling. So, we can cast and jig, and now the population's so high that we can still be successful. Where 15 years ago, if you wanted to go cast and jig, you might get a few bites, but for the amount of effort and time and money you were going to invest, we were much better off trolling. So now we can kind of dial in the trips where, hey, you guys want to put some fish in the box, let's do it. Find where they're at, kind of dial in an area that they're concentrated in, and then we can switch over to spinning tackle and use darn near anything and put some more fish in the boat.
Well, I've got to follow up on that. That sounds like a riot, because as much as I love to troll, there's nothing like having that rod in your hand when a fish bites.
Indeed.
So I was thinking you're going to say, okay, we're casting jigs tipped with plastic on the reefs, but it sounds like there's something more. Help me figure this out.
Well, I mean, it's relative. We do a lot of the reef fishing. I mean, that's got lots of good structure. That's where 80% of the entire population of Lake Erie walleye spawn. So when you're talking about a population of the size that we have, there is a lot more fish out there on the reef spawning than there are in the Detroit River. When you talk about the Detroit River, you're concentrating the amount of water that they could possibly be in. So you may be able to go to the Detroit River and catch more fish per hour, per rod hour. But if you find them on Lake Erie, they have more room. So we try to target certain year classes of fish. And, if guys want to catch big ones, I don't care if we caught 15 fish already. We might pick up gear and move 10 miles away to try to find a school of fish that's more mature. The more mature fish don't tend to seem to want to hang out with the immature fish, so to speak.
A 10-mile run, how would you know where to go? Is it based on a network of fellow captains, or is it based on past experience? I mean, you don't just randomly pick up and run 10 miles to someplace you're not pretty confident you can get fish at.
Yeah, it's both. I mean, I try not to fish memories. You can get in a big situation of trouble when you try to fish memories. But at the same time, you can start to understand the currents of the lake and why fish are where they're at. And then you're catching this year class of fish here. You could try to just move far enough away and find another year class of fish on a different area, a different reef.
Well, the concept.
And yeah, a lot of the things captains, to be able to. I always tell everybody the difference between a recreational guy that's just as passionate, has just the same amount of knowledge, technique, equipment, everything. They can only fish one spot at a time if they don't have a network of people on the water at the same time. So that's where being, a charter captain and being a professional really gives you an advantage, because I could have 10 other fellow captains out there at one time, and now we're fishing 10 spots, and the fish can't hide.
Well, and another difference, in my opinion, is you get the hardcore. I'm going to say weekend warrior, realizing they're much more than that. But a hardcore weekend warrior who is a very, very, very good angler versus a captain. The difference, in my opinion, is the weekend warrior is out there. He's just trying to satisfy himself and maybe his buddies. You, as a paid captain, you've got people in the boat who are paying you to take you fishing. They are expecting a certain level of entertainment, and I feel like that's a lot of pressure on guys like you.
It can be, but honestly, with the way the population's been, it's taken a lot of the pressure off. I mean, it's really hard to not catch them, and if you're not catching them at this point, it's just because the fish don't want to bite. They go through hourly periods, daily periods where they don't want anything to do with it. And that's the only reason that you're not going to catch them at this point, because there's so many fish.
Well, and let's go back to jigging them. I didn't explore that to the extent that I wanted to. What depth of water are these fish in when you're jigging them?
Well, like I said, low light, early in the morning, first thing before the sun really comes up, we're going to fish sub 15 feet of water.
Oh, are you talking the big lake then? I thought we were talking river. We're talking big lake. Okay.
No, in the river. Oh, in the lake. I mean, it's just relative to the edge of the reef. So it could be anywhere from 15 to 30 feet of water. And that's where the electronics really come into play. I'm not going to fish where there's not fish.
Mm-hmm.
Lance will tell you the same thing. The most important thing is to fish where the fish are. I could take all my equipment, my hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment, and all my knowledge and go to a lake where there's no walleye, and I'm going to catch no walleye. If you fish where the fish are, you give yourself a chance. And then it's just a matter of them wanting to cooperate from there. So a lot of it's driving around and looking and graphing and figuring out, okay, there is fish here. Now, how do we get them to bite?
So when you're jigging them in the big lake, in Lake Erie, is it a vertical jig like you would be in the river, or are you casting out and letting them drop? What's this process like?
If we can find them, we can vertical jig them. We can just sit on top of them and just drop baits down to them and work them. Otherwise, we are doing a little bit of pitch and casting. We're not trying to cast it 1,000,000 miles from the boat, just far enough that you can work it back and cover a little more water. And if you get 4 guys in the boat that know what they're doing, you should be able to break down some water pretty quick. And the one thing that I found with the casting and jigging, whether it's blade baits or jigs with plastic or any sort of glide bait like a Jig and Rapala or Acme Hyperglide or any of those moonshine type style baits, you're going to get bites immediately. If you don't get bites in the first 5 to 10 casts, they're not going to bite that.
Really?
I have never worked over an area and seen fish and had them not bite it if they wanted to. You know, so it's just a matter of moving on to another spot and finding more fish and seeing if those are in the right mood to bite. You know, you're better off doing that than sit around and waiting for those fish to, you know, turn on, so to speak.
I would think one positive note on jigging out there in the big lake, from your perspective, as the guy on the trolling motor, you don't have to worry about the current of the river. You don't have that to deal with. Of course, you've got, you know, the extra wind of being on big water, but is it in some ways easier to jig Lake Erie than it is Detroit River?
As far as boat control, 100%. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot less involved in trying to keep the baits vertical when you're drifting in a 1.5 mile, 2 mile an hour current, as opposed to out on the lake, where you can, you know, I actually like when we have a little bit of wind, so I don't have to have the trolling motor on the whole time and keep pulling us around. Like, just let Mother Nature take us where she's going to go, and we can work the water. You know, I try to work like a football field size of water and break that down once we find fish, obviously. And then if they want to bite, they want to bite. If they don't, then we might move a 1/4 mile away and see if we can find some more fish, and just keep doing that until you find the active fish that are angry. And just, you know, when they're angry and they're positive, you get bites, because there's a difference between a bite and a strike. Fish that are biting are easy to catch. Fish that you're triggering a strike becomes more difficult. So the skill level of the anglers, you know, their experience level, you know, that all comes into play. I may try to find fish that just want to bite if I know that the people on the boat with me that day aren't going to be able to trigger strikes, because I don't want to just go catch fish all day and let them watch me. I want them to, you know, participate the same.
Brad, it's always a pleasure. I appreciate your time. I would encourage people to go to your website, ifishdetroit.com, and book a trip with you on on one of those wonderful fisheries down there in the southeast part of the state, and you and I will talk again soon.
Awesome, Mike. Thank you. And I'll say it again. We got to get out fishing.
And I'll say again, I would love to, but making it happen is the big challenge. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. Lots more coming up. Stay with us. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Muskegon on WKBZ 1090 AM. You can hear us north of the bridge in Manistee on WTIQ 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can hear us in Saginaw on WSGW 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now. In fact, for this 3 hours, I like to call this little corner of the building the Outdoor Magazine radio studio. I'm here with Charlie Root. And Charlie, remember last week when it was so rainy and windy and there was nobody out there nobody. Look out there now. I want you to see the people starting to line up now, because they know Charlie's got baseball practice he's got to go to, and they know this, so they're lining up. I can see, there's 2 families out there with kids. Oh, one of them's carrying signs that say, "We love Charlie." Yeah, it's going to be a good crowd. You're going to have to work your way through it today, Charlie. I can already hear, Charlie Root, he's our man. If he can't do it, nobody can. I've heard him say that before. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Boning Archery. Michigan-based Boning has been a leader in the archery industry since mid-40s? And they continue now to come up with new products, new innovations, new designs. As I head into the springtime turkey woods, I'm going to be shooting, a high-tech crossbow, but I'm going to have a boning quiver on that bow. I like that whenever I can, since Boning doesn't make bows or arrows, they make everything for bows and arrows, but they don't make bows or arrows. I like to, whenever I can, use Boning products on my rig, and so I will. I'll have a Boning quiver on there, and we'll see what else I can come up with as well. Their website, bohning.com, B-O-H-N-I-N-G, bohning.com. And I will be out there with a crossbow this spring. My springtime turkey season starts next Saturday. I was worried that my number one spot, which is very close to the house, I wasn't, as I pop in there, I wasn't seeing birds. So I got a little nervous. I thought, man, if there's no birds in there this year, I got to find a backup spot. So my son James said, hey, have you checked the trail cameras on the property that we lease in the southeast part of the county? I said, no, I haven't. He said, you should. I checked, and there was a big longbeard wandering around in one of our food plots. And said, in fact, we've got a blind right near on this food plot that's been wandering around on. So I texted Gene, the property owner out there, and I said, hey, I might need a backup spot. Do you mind if I turkey hunt there this spring? He said, no, not at all. He said, we've got a couple of big birds wandering around and several flocks nearby. I said, oh, excellent. So I got that in my back pocket. On the way into the studio this morning, I went to my number one spot, my buddy Doug's farm. See, I don't have property, but I have friends. And that way I don't have to pay taxes on the property, but I can hunt those properties. So I went over to Doug's farm, and what I was going to do was drive, and this is just as it was breaking light, and I was going to do it the lazy way. Since this area gets a fair amount of vehicle traffic, I was just going to drive back toward the edge of the woods, shut the truck down, open the windows, and see if I could hear any gobbles. Well, I get halfway down the 2-track to the woods, and I stopped because there's a bird in the trail in front of me. It turns out he's a longbeard, and he's working his way along the edge of the woodlot, directly halfway between where I set up my blinds. I usually set up a blind on the south end of the property and the north end. And he's working that woodlot, the edge of the woodlot, right there. So I thought, things are starting to look better. So I will be out there opening morning, looking forward to it. Now, as I said, I'm going to be out there with a crossbow. And I enjoy talking about this aspect of archery, this whole traditional archery versus compounds versus crossbows. Because I've hunted with all three. I've taken animals with all three. And so I come from some level of experience. I don't pretend to be an expert. I'm not a lifelong traditional archer, but I've done it enough to know how challenging it is and how rewarding it is, but how much time and dedication and skill it takes to be proficient with traditional archery tackle, and that would be a recurve or a longbow. And I got to the point, until a couple of years ago, until 2 seasons ago, I was still hunting with a recurve. And I got to the point where I wasn't shooting it enough to be confident that I could make a good, quick, humane killing shot. In fact, it was toward the end of the last deer season, bow season, I hunted with that thing. I thought, you know what? If a deer walks in front of me right now at 15 yards and stops and quarters away, would I even take the shot? And I said to myself, no, I wouldn't, because I didn't have the confidence that I needed to be proficient. And when you get to that point, it's time to pick up a different tool. So I went back to a crossbow. Now, some people say you're taking the easy way out. Well, certainly it's easier to be proficient and accurate with a crossbow. Absolutely it is. But isn't that the goal? Isn't that the goal of any bow hunter? To make a quick, clean, humane killing shot? And if the tool that you're using allows you to do that, what does it matter what that tool is as long as that tool is legal? So that's where I'm at. Say I'm taking the easy way out. Yeah, that's what you think. I think I'm taking the ethical approach. But we can have that conversation. Send me an email to Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. We'll take a break here. When we come back, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner. That's right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery. So glad to have you along with us. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Don't hesitate to reach out. I do want to hear from you. Also want to let you know that this segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let Reader create an outdoor getaway in your backyard, as they have for me. And it is that time of year, isn't it? Lawn maintenance, springtime cleanup. Of course, the folks from Reader can help you out with that. But if you want to get into projects, if you want to turn your backyard into your outdoor getaway, the folks from Reader can do that. I mean, they are experts at patios, fireplace, lighting, seating. I mean, you name it. They can take a bland, plain backyard and make it into some place that's like, okay, I don't need to go up north. I can walk out the back door, and here it is, courtesy of the folks from Reader Landscaping. Check them out online at readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. If you've been with us before, you know I love to wrap up each week's show with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner. And guess what? He's here once again. David, welcome back. How are you?
Very good, Michael. And yourself?
Well, as I look out the window, the sun is shining and it's warm, so I'm pretty darn good.
Me too. I was out yesterday in the food plots disking them up.
And what are you seeing out there, Dave? You seeing any signs of critters while you're out there?
Yeah, I tell you what, the deer trails through the food plot are quite prominent. I'm going to maybe walk them in the next day or so and see if I can find any sheds.
Oh, yeah. Now would be the time to do it, right? Before everything greens up. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, David, what do you got?
The other day from 8 Point.
Oh, nice. What do you have for a recipe for us this week?
Well, we've got a waya poivre. It's got green peppercorns in it, and poivre means pepper in French. So this is going to be for 4 portions. You're going to need about 8 to 10 ounces of walleye per person, a couple of beaten up eggs, flour to dredge the meat in, 1 onion diced fine. If you get all of this stuff together, before you start, this is a pretty fast meal. So a 12-ounce package of mushrooms sliced thin, 2 to 3 cloves of garlic diced fine. You're going to need to, if you're watching your ad intake, you might not want to put heavy cream in it, but I love it with heavy cream. And same thing with brandy or bourbon, either one. It makes the flavor come right out with the peppers, a couple ounces of white wine, jar of chicken gravy, and 1 to 2 tablespoons of green peppers, more or less to your taste. If you want this zippy and a lot of pepper flavor, add more, and if not, just a little bit. It's up to you, however your folks that you're going to be cooking for like it. So, and a little bit of olive oil to saute with. So you're going to dredge the meat in flour, then in the beaten up eggs in a hot pan with a small amount of olive oil. Brown the fish on both sides. I would usually start it with the skin side up, so when you turn it, the rib side would be facing the diner. And so you're going to take the fish out after they're nice and browned, and in that same pan, you're going to saute the onions and the garlic just for a little while, maybe just to break the flavor loose. You don't want it on super hot either. You just want to, don't brown it. You just want to have them transparent. And then away from your stove, I would flambe with the brandy. If you put the white wine in first and then the brandy, chances are it's not going to flare up. And then you add the mushrooms and the peppercorns to your taste. You can either leave them whole, dice them up, or smash them with the flat side of the knife. They're very, they're kind of in a pickled juice, and so they smash real easy. Get that cooking real good and add the chicken gravy. Reduce that down to a simmer. Nice rolling simmer, because you want to reduce this down, get a nice thick and creamy. And then just before you are finished, you want to finish this with heavy cream. Now, the walleye is going to be almost done like it is, so you can either put it in the oven at 350 degrees for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes tops, or you can put it back in the sauce, and that would work good too. But chances are you're not going to have a pan big enough to hold 4 fillets of walleye. So I'd say put it on a sheet pan, put it in the oven. So when the sauce is nice, thick, and creamy, you're going to remove the walleye to plates and spoon sauce all over the fish. And if you like, put a little bit of parsley. It would look really good. But this is a killer way to use big walleyes that are a little strong, Mike.
Well, and when you're cooking a poivre for me, when you put as many peppercorns on there as you think a normal person would want, then double it, and then you're getting close for me. Yep.
I know you love.
I love pepper, and this whole concept of eating something a poivre, I never even knew existed, Dave, until you made a venison a poivre for me, and I absolutely fell in love with it. So I thank you.
We did wild turkey too.
Oh, wild turkey! That was right. Yes. I've learned so many things from you over the years.
Well, thank you.
All right, David, I'm going to let you go. Enjoy the sunshine. We'll talk again next week.
Got your boat in?
No, we're not talking about that. I'm turkey hunting right now. That's what we're dealing with right now. I'm starting turkey hunting next week.
When does turkey season start?
My season starts next Saturday.
Wow. I see turkeys around our pond, and they're gobbling already.
I like that, and I'm a simple man. I can only deal with one thing at once, so I'm dealing with turkey hunting now. Wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show. I appreciate him being along every week, and I appreciate you joining us as well. Without your support, this would not be possible. Check out the website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and please feel free to send me an email with your questions, your comments, your criticisms, your suggestions to Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My name is Mike Avery. The show is called Outdoor Magazine, and I will look forward to talking with you next week for 3 hours, once again, talking about the great outdoors, the history and tradition of the outdoor lifestyle here in the great state of Michigan.